Hello dear students. Today we will start with the next chapter in biology, which is biotechnology, principles and processes. Technology is the use of scientific knowledge in industries for industrial purposes. Biotechnology is the use of living organisms or techniques involving living organisms for industrial purposes. That is the meaning of the term biotechnology. So how can we define biotechnology? Biotechnology is the technique of using live organisms or living organisms or enzymes from organisms to produce products and processes useful to humans. This is the definition of biotechnology. The technique of using living organisms, live organisms. That's why it is called biotechnology. Or enzymes from organism. Why do we give importance to enzymes? Because enzymes are biological catalysts. They catalyze all biochemical reactions. In order to produce a product, you need enzymes. So, it could be the use of a whole organism or just the enzyme from organism to produce products and processes useful to humans. That's why this is an industrial production using techniques involving biological organisms. Okay, now let us take two examples like this. Making curd using lactobacillus. Okay, lactobacillus is a living organism. This organism is used in converting milk to curd. So in the dairy industry, to prepare curd, lactobacillus is used. So this also can be considered biotechnology. Next, you use yeast in both the baking industry as well as the brewing industry. In both cases, in order to make the bread or wine, we use the fermentation process of yeast. Yeast is used to ferment sugar in order to produce to help in both the baking industry as well as the brewing industry. The carbon dioxide released during fermentation helps in the raising of the dough, and the alcohol produced during fermentation is used in the brewing industry. So here you have an organism which is used to produce products useful to mankind. So, can we consider this as biotechnology? This was considered as biotechnology earlier. The term biotechnology was coined by Carl Ehrlich way back in 1919, and he is considered as father of biotechnology. Now he referred to biotechnology as the use of living organism to produce products useful to human beings, and he was referring to these, where you use living organisms to obtain products useful to mankind. But this is right now we do not use the term biotechnology for these kind of natural processes. So what is the difference? In biotechnology, we use what are called as genetically modified organism. Now, if lactobacillus converts milk to curd, that's a natural process. Suppose, this is just an example, it doesn't mean these are all the right, this is happening, but still I'm just giving you as an example. Suppose E. coli, which is a bacteria, another bacteria, lactobacillus is a bacteria which converts milk to curd. E. coli is another bacteria which definitely does not convert milk to curd. But if you bring about a genetic change in E. coli and make E. coli convert milk to curd, then that is biotechnology, which means biotechnology uses genetically modified organisms whose genetic makeup has been modified. That is called as biotechnology, and this is always used to produce products on a large scale. We are not talking about small scale production. on a large scale production. This is called as biotechnology, where we use genetically modified organisms. So although earlier these things were considered as biotechnology, now biotechnology refers only to the use of genetically modified organisms and to produce products on a large scale. Now some of the examples given where we use not only the product of biotechnology but also the processes involved in biotechnology in various fields. Some of the examples given in your textbook include in vitro fertilization, which is making test tube babies, about which you would have studied in human reproduction chapter. Synthesizing a gene and using a gene, where you can artificially synthesize a gene. DNA vaccine, about vaccine you would have studied in health chapter. This is preparation of DNA vaccine. Gene therapy, which means correcting a defective gene. Now all this we will not be doing in detail right now, because we need to understand some amount of biotechnology to even try to understand what this means. So I'm just giving you the application mentioned in the textbook as examples where you use not only organisms but also processes which are useful to human beings, and that is called as biotechnology. Okay, the European Federation of Biotechnology, EFB, defines biotechnology as the integration of natural science and organisms, cells, parts thereof, and molecular analogues for products and services. Integration of natural science, integrated field. Whenever we use the term, it is an integrated field, means integrated approach, means involving number of branches. For example, we will say biochemistry is an integrated field because it combines biology and chemistry. Biophysics is an integrated field because it involves biology and physics. So whenever you're combining different branches of science, then that process is called as an integrated approach or integration of natural science. Natural science involves physics, chemistry, geology, biology, all that comes under natural science. So you're integrating natural science and organisms, because we are going to use organisms. You can use whole organism, or we may just need a few cells or any part of the organism. And molecular analogues. Molecular analogues means analogues are those which are artificially made similar to the original molecule. For example, when you say nucleic acid analog, means it is something which is similar to nucleic acid, a molecule which mimics a nucleic acid, similar to nucleic acid. For what purpose are we integrating this? In order to produce products and services for various industries. In various industrial purposes, we use the integration of natural science and organisms. It could just be full organism, it could be cell, it could be any part of the organism, or even just molecules from organisms for products and services. So this is just an introduction to what is meant by biotechnology and how is biotechnology different, the present biotechnology different from conventional earlier knowledge of biotechnology. The difference lies in the use of genetically modified organisms whose genetic makeup is modified to obtain products on a large scale. Now let us look at the principles of biotechnology. The two core techniques or principles of biotechnology. First one, I'm sure you would have heard this term, genetic engineering. Both are interrelated. Biotechnology and genetic engineering, because in this field you are going to use microbiology, biochemistry, physics, chemistry and engineering science for industrial purposes. Hence the term engineering. And what are you engineering? You are engineering the genetic makeup of an organism. So it is the technique of altering the chemistry of genetic material. You bring about a change in the genetic material of an organism. either it could be the DNA or RNA, and introduce these into a host organism so that the host organism's phenotype changes. So this is the first core principle of biotechnology. The whole thing depends on this particular process. From here, variety of things can be taken for various industries. You can use the entire process, or smaller pieces of this process can be used in any kind of industry. So genetic engineering again is the technique of how do we go about altering the chemistry of a genetic material. A DNA or RNA is altered, and what do? We introduce it into a host organism, thus bringing about a change in the phenotype of the host. So let's see how that happens. Here is an organism from which you obtain a desired gene. A gene whose product you want. You want a gene's product. This gene is a very useful gene. Let's say, for example, we know there is an enzyme called as nitrogenase, and this nitrogenase enzyme, nitrogenase, is an enzyme involved in nitrogen fixation. This nitrogenase enzyme is produced by a gene called as NIF gene, that is nitrogen fixing gene. So which organism can have this NIF gene? A nitrogen fixing organism only can have this NIF gene. So which one is that? Rhizobium, which is a nitrogen fixing bacteria present in the root nodules of leguminous plants, will have a gene called as a NIF gene. And why do you want? You want this gene because you are interested in its product, namely nitrogenase. Okay. So what do? You obtain a desired gene. You involve a lot of processes where you obtain the desired gene. Then you introduce it into a vector. Vector is something which is a carrier. Like you studied about vectors in human health, you would have studied that vectors are carriers of diseases. Here, what is this vector going to carry? It is going to carry a gene. It is going to carry a desired gene. Where is it going to carry? It is going to carry it into the host organism. You are introducing it into the host. So, this gene, desired gene, is introduced into a vector, and usually the vector is a plasmid. Okay, plasmid, you have already studied what are plasmids. Plasmids are autonomously, meaning independently, replicating circular extrachromosomal DNA present in bacteria, which has an origin of replication, the ORI site, which is very essential to initiate the process of replication. So this plasmid is used as a vector. Okay, so what is genetic engineering? You have a desired gene. This desired gene is introduced into a plasmid. The plasmid acts as a vector, that is the carrier of a gene. It is a gene vector. It is a gene taxi, carries the desired gene. This plasmid now carrying the desired gene is called as a recombinant DNA. So what is a plasmid? In a bacteria, you have the main DNA, which is a circular ring of DNA. You have another small extra chromosomal DNA, which is also circular. And you would have studied last year when you did about bacteria, about prokaryotes, that this plasmid contains a very important gene, the gene for resistance to antibiotics. So this you studied last year, and it also, that particular topic, it said that this is used in biotechnology. Plasmids are used in biotechnology. This plasmid is now introduced into the host organism. And the process of entry of a plasmid into the host is called as transformation. We'll study about all this in detail later. We're just giving you the overall picture of what is meant by biotechnology. You obtain a desired gene and introduce it into a plasmid, which is the vector that is going to carry the gene, which is then introduced into the host by, let's say, a process called as transformation. Now let's say host is E. coli. E. coli bacteria is the host. So now E. coli has taken up a new desired gene. Suppose the desired gene is NIF gene. What is a NIF gene? The nitrogen fixing gene is called as NIF gene. Where did you get it from? From which organism did you get it? You got it from Rhizobium. You cut out this desired gene, the NIF gene, used a plasmid to introduce it into the host. Let's say E. coli. Now E. coli has a new gene. And what is that new gene? It is the NIF gene. So now E. coli has a new phenotype. It is now capable of fixing atmospheric nitrogen. These are all hypothetical, just as an example. That's all. So obtaining the desired gene from an organism, this gene is introduced into a host through a vector, which is a plasmid. Now the question arises, why are you using a plasmid to introduce the gene? Because the plasmid is an autonomously replicating circular extrachromosomal DNA in bacteria, which has, how is it able to replicate on its own? It is able to replicate because it has an ORI site. It has an ORI site, origin of replication site. Hence, it can replicate inside the host. Okay, so let's go and see this process. Here you have the desired gene from a cell, from an organism. You have obtained the desired gene. This is the extrachromosomal plasmid, which you get obtained from a bacteria. Into this plasmid, you introduce the desired gene. Now this plasmid becomes a recombinant DNA. By the method of transformation, you introduce it into the host. Now the host will multiply. Bacteria multiplies. It undergoes binary fission. It multiplies. And as it multiplies, the DNA, the plasmid, which carries the recombinant DNA carrying the desired gene. See, this is the red color one is the desired gene. The green is the plasmid. This is the genome of the DNA of the host organism. As the plasmid multiplies inside the host, the required gene or the desired gene also multiplies inside the host, and this process is called as gene cloning. Making multiple copies of the desired gene in the host organism is called as gene cloning. So let's go through the steps again. What is meant by genetic engineering, which is the core principle. Everything is based on this. In this, we can use any process. If you use the first step, or you use this step, or you use this step, anything is also considered as biotechnology. That's why we say using living organisms or enzymes from living organisms for products or processes useful to mankind. It could be a product of this desired gene, or it could be the process which is involved, which is useful to mankind. So here you have an organism from which you have obtained the desired gene. That gene you have introduced into a vector, which is a plasmid, and a plasmid is an autonomously replicating circular extrachromosomal DNA. On introducing the desired gene into the vector plasmid, this now becomes a recombinant DNA, which is then introduced into the host, usually by the process of transformation. And as the desired DNA or plasmid multiplies inside the host, how can the plasmid multiply inside the host? Why are you in fact choosing a vector? Is because the vector has the capacity to multiply inside the host because it has an origin of replication site. So when it enters the host now develops a new phenotype. It thus changes the phenotype of the host. What if you can make E. coli fix atmospheric nitrogen? So that means E. coli has obtained a new phenotype. Earlier it was not capable of fixing atmospheric nitrogen. Now it can fix atmospheric nitrogen. So which means its phenotype has changed. And as this multiplies inside the host, you can get multiple copies of the desired gene inside the host, and that process is called as gene cloning. So this is the first basic principle of biotechnology. Okay, what is the next core principle or technique involved in biotechnology? It's called as bioprocess engineering. This is like a chemical engineering process which is extremely crucial for biotechnology. If this is not there, the whole process cannot take place. It is important to maintain a sterile, aseptic, microbial contamination free environment for enabling the growth of only the desired microbe or a eukaryotic cell in large quantities to manufacture biotechnological products like antibiotic, vaccines, enzymes, etc. Okay, let's put it in a simpler way. Now you are going through all these processes. You have taken a recombinant DNA. You have introduced the recombinant DNA into the host. Now the host starts multiplying. Remember, biotechnology is something used in industrial purpose, for industrial purposes, which means on a really huge, large scale, not small production, small scale production. This is a large scale production. Now what happens after you introduce the recombinant DNA into the host, let's say E. coli, and you want this E. coli to go on multiplying so that you get multiple copies of the desired gene, that is, gene cloning is taking place. But unfortunately, you did not maintain a very sterile environment. Sterile, aseptic means free from microbial contamination. Now suppose this is contaminated. The medium is contaminated. You did not take trouble to maintain a very, very aseptic medium. Then you will invest so much of money to produce a product on a large scale. Instead of your E. coli growing, it could be some other bacteria growing in your medium. Then your entire process becomes a waste. So without maintaining an aseptic medium, there is no use of going through the first step of genetic engineering at all. If this process is done on, when this process is being done on a large scale, just imagine you are trying to grow an E. coli bacteria which has undergone a transformation, which is now possessing a new phenotype. Instead of that E. coli bacteria, let's say the medium has got infected with some other bacteria, typhoid causing bacteria. Instead of E. coli, that bacteria will be growing. So the whole process becomes a waste. So that is why it is very essential to ensure that it only involves the growth of your desired organism. The organism which you want, the host organism which you want, only that should be growing. So it is important to maintain a sterile, aseptic, microbial contamination free, an environment which is free from any other microbial contamination. Why? So that only your desired microbe will grow, or a eukaryote. Microbe is usually, when we're talking about microorganisms, we're talking about the prokaryotic bacteria. It doesn't mean that eukaryotic cell cannot be the host. So it could be eukaryotic or prokaryotic. Why? Because you are doing it in large quantities, you are manufacturing. What kind of products are you manufacturing? You are manufacturing antibiotics in the pharmaceutical industry, vaccines in pharmaceutical industries, enzymes which can be used in any kind of industry. So when you're doing it on such a large scale, the environment should be free from any type of contamination. Hence, these are the two core principles of biotechnology. Okay, continuing. Let us see, why did this biotechnology develop at all? Why did we have this concept of biotechnology? Now let's just go back and see about our knowledge of sexual and asexual reproduction. We know that sexual reproduction produces variation. When you compare sexual versus asexual, we know that asexual produces clones, organisms which are genetically and morphologically similar, whereas sexual reproduction produces variations, and variations form the basis for evolution. And that is very important. Sexual reproduction produces variation or recombination, which is necessary for evolution. Okay, in sexual reproduction, there involves what is called as hybridization. You know, hybridization is something which develops because of sexual reproduction. Now let us see. There is a variety here. There is a plant species A. There is variety 1 and variety 2. Variety 1 is high yielding but not disease resistant. Whereas variety 2 is not high yielding but disease resistant. Now when there is sexual reproduction or hybridization is performed between variety 1 and variety 2, crossbreeding is done, then you will get a variety which is both high yielding as well as disease resistant. But there is always a possibility that you can get a variety which is neither high yielding nor disease resistant. So this is just a chance occurrence. Either you can have a plant which is both high yielding as well as disease resistant, or you can have plants or offsprings which are neither high yielding nor disease resistant. So hybridization between sexual and asexual, sexual reproduction is preferred because it produces variation. But because sexual reproduction produces variation, in hybridization experiments, you can get varieties where the actual desired feature is lost. Desired feature are high yield and disease resistance. Both can be lost in the offspring. That is where biotechnology comes into play, where you will be introducing the desired gene, so there is no chance of variation. You are going to maintain the desired gene in the host organism. Inside the host, the desired gene is maintained, and so this is preferred over traditional hybridization. Let's look at a little bit about the history of recombinant DNA technology in the next video.